Hello, and welcome to The Foundation, a Parks People podcast, presented by the National Association of Park Foundations. And now, your host and Executive Director of the National Association of Park Foundations, Kevin Korenthal.
Well, welcome back to The Foundation, a Parks People podcast. It's been a couple of months since we've had a chance to get together with friends in the park and recreation space. I'm so excited for our guest today. I want to thank all of you for being subscribers, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or any of the other places where you can get podcasts. We're just so grateful, and we hope you were looking forward to the latest edition of this podcast. As you know, I'm the Executive Director, Kevin Korenthal, National Association of Park Foundations. Have had a great summer working with our park and recreation friends, and one of the individuals I got a chance to spend some time with this summer working on the strategic plan for his park foundation is Steve Love, who joins us today. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great, Kevin, and thank you for inviting me to talk to you today. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been an awesome about a year now that we've been working together since getting involved with helping your foundation with board training. And there's a long backstory behind how all that happened and all the things that come after. But it was really great to move from a process with you in helping educate your board on their responsibilities and the due diligence and risk associated with nonprofit service into working on a strategic plan. I'd love to have you talk a little bit about kind of how we got from that, picking it up from that board training and getting to the process of that strategic plan work.
Sure. And, I feel I was very fortunate that the relationship with NAPF had already started by the time I came on board with the H.A.R.D Foundation.
Yeah, Jim Wheeler, the district director, was the one who made that kind of connection.
Exactly. And it was really helpful for me. I had some prior experience, probably about 20 years ago working with Parks Foundation, but coming into a new organization, it's always a lot to learn, new personalities. And it was important to me to educate the board members so that they knew exactly what the role of a park foundation should be. So that initial training kind of set the stage. From that initial training, I had a work plan, but drawing on my fundraising experience, so I spent 30 years in the fundraising realm, I knew that we needed a strategic plan. There's an old saying, plan the work the plan. And without a strategic plan in place, the board really has no ownership. I can come forward with a development plan, I can come forward with a budget, and it's kind of rote. When you get into a strategic planning process, that really draws in your board, it draws in the stakeholders, draws in your donors, and really gives you an opportunity to get the input and the feedback that you really need to move forward developing fundraising campaigns, helping to suggest different programmatic changes. Now, I'm not trying to say that I would ever make recommendations for how programs should run. That's not my expertise. But what people are looking for,
the feedback that you're hearing.
Exactly. And, it's not solicited by me. I really enjoyed the fact that, I had input into the surveys, I had input into the interview questions, but taking myself out of the equation and turning that over to you to, basically implement and get that out really creates a safe space, I think, for stakeholders to basically be free with their opinions and feel unfettered and not like they're going to hurt my feelings because they're going to have to interact with me on a daily basis.
Yeah, so you're in the Bay Area of California, and
Yep.
I am in North Texas, so like a good distance away from each other. And so I think people probably wonder when they think about the process of strategic planning, how it is that the fact that we didn't actually meet in person until I delivered the strategic plan that we put together just a couple of weeks ago. So I kind of wanted, I know the process, but I want to kind of get from your perspective how that process worked and how you felt that worked out in the end.
Well, for me, the process worked great. So we're a very small operation. The district has about 150 full-time employees, 300 seasonal employees. Big operation. Foundation, there's me, and I have a half-time assistant, uh, which, as you might imagine, is there's a bandwidth issue. Um, my focus is always on the dollar, getting out there, fundraising, building relationships. So being able to start a relationship with you via technology, Zoom, Google Meet. We've used a couple different formats. Really made it easy for me. We were able to establish a rapport early on. That rapport carried us through. Actually, it was close to 18 months. We went back and
Yeah,
looked at
wow.
when we started the board training, strategic planning, and to when you basically came to present the strategic plan to the board. I really felt like I already knew you. During that process, uh, we met on a regular basis. I would say at least monthly throughout the process, if not more frequently at times when we needed. I had to give and take. And the ability to establish that rapport made it much easier for me to take drafts of the strategic plan, take drafts of the questions that were going to be asked, have input into the process, and feel comfortable, sharing that with you. And your knowledge of the relationship between the public agency and the friends group or foundation supporting them was very helpful. Again, it'd been some time since I'd been in a role that was Parks and Rec related. So it really helped me come up to speed much faster. Uh, so overall, I love the fact that technology enabled us to move forward, and in some ways, I think uh, more productive than other strategic planning processes that I've been through. And I've been through a few. Usually, you work with a consultant, you bring the stakeholder groups together at different times. You get out there with the whiteboard and the sticky notes, and then you bring all the internal stakeholders together. And that process can be long and drawn out. I mean, sometimes much longer than a year, which is pretty much what we spent on strategic planning, and it loses something. I think people, uh, I don't want to say people have a short attention span, but we live in a fast paced environment. So when you bring people together, then they go away, you kind of lose some momentum. I think the way that we did it kept that momentum going and was less intrusive on my time and the time of the folks that we needed to get information from.
And that what I have found has been critical to that process. I too am 20 years in the nonprofit space. I have been through at least participated in a dozen strategic plans before I ever became a facilitator myself. And it was interesting because I had been thrust into strategic planning later in my career and was instructed by facilitators who kind of were very old school. The all day in the in a room with the easels and the putting little dots on ideas and that sort of stuff. When I was first getting into doing strategic plans with the park and rec field, COVID had happened, and everybody had already at that point been used to meeting via video. And so I adopted all the processes that I had done, pre-work surveys, one-on-one interviews, and several, at least two in-person meetings that would be under 90 minutes so that we could keep people's attention span and make them feel like they weren't having large gobs of their time being taken in large spots. Well, that rolled out, and really the work that I've been doing with the H.A.R.D Foundation kind of rolled all of the old processes that we utilize with the new technology to, in the end, we created something that, again, as you pointed out, and what I was feeling the entire time was that we were being more efficient with your board members' time, and and this is the key part, is that I am in this, in this technology age, able to communicate information to you faster, giving you more time to respond to it. And then I can utilize that feedback as we move through the process.
Yep. And actually, it's funny. I'm smiling because when I first pitched my board chair, Linda Cliff, who you met when you came to our board meeting, about doing strategic planning process, and we'd have to, her first reaction was, I can't take an all day seminar, group meeting, with, I don't have the time or the energy to sit in a room all day. And I go, I don't think this is going to be quite like that. And she was quite relieved that it wasn't like that at all. In fact, it was in some ways, I'd have to say more personal than bringing everybody together into a space for a day, breaking into different groups and then coming back together. I felt that this process gave people an opportunity to be heard more fully. It gave me an opportunity to have, I think, more impact and input into the process than I have in any other strategic planning process I've been through. And as you said, nonprofits love strategic planning, and they love to get that together. And for many reasons, it's a great roadmap. Funders like it, all the rating agencies like it. But at the end of the day, if you get a strategic plan and it sits on the shelf, it's not going to do anybody any
Yeah,
good.
right.
The strategic plan that we came up with is not only actionable. I was able to start working on that. Even before you presented it, it was passed by the board. Probably shouldn't say that, but there was
Well, I mean,
items in there.
no, it's true. Some of those things were so low hanging that they just needed to be worked on and they didn't require the board's approval to do those things.
Exactly. And it makes an impact. Now when I meet with the committee and say, okay, you know, the strategic plan at the end of the day is the board's strategic plan.
Yeah.
They pass it. I obviously I'm going to do a lot of the work, but they have to own that. When I can come forward and say, okay, we've already checked these items off. Now, this is the board responsibility section, and let's discuss how we're going to get this part done. It doesn't feel like they're having to do everything on their own. It feels more like a partnership, and that we're working together rather than going off into silos and trying to complete things without that cohesiveness.
And I thought that this was a real great opportunity for me to test my efficiency and the technology to create efficiency in the fact that I think no less than 18 interviews were conducted
Yeah.
with stakeholders both inside and outside of the foundation. Each of those conversations running between 30 and 90 minutes, depending on what those individuals had to share. And then taking all of that information in my notes from those conversations back into what we'd already conducted, which was an initial SWOT analysis on surveys, which there's another tool, survey tools that allow people in there whenever they have the time to go and answer questions about their experience inside or outside the stakeholder group. I thought really has made it possible to do a strategic plan, not only, as you mentioned, something that isn't going to just get filed away, but the fact that when people come out of the end of that process, they don't feel exhausted and having been beat upside the head with so many hours required of their time that they feel like the plan is fresh. And I think that's one of the things going forward that I hope all of the members out there that are listening to the podcast, or whether you're a member or not, you can always be a member of the NAPF, that you'd kind of take the idea that if your organization needs a plan and you are thinking about a process, that you don't necessarily have to use just the folks that are there in your community, that your trade association, the National Association of Park Foundations, has the tools to do this with you in a very, I think you would agree, I probably don't charge enough for the service, that it is so efficient with the time and the resources of the organization that it's worth contacting the NAPF to see if we can help you with your plan.
Oh, of course. And again, for a foundation of our size, where we are in our trajectory and our growth, it was the cost was perfect. I was able to go to the board, and literally it was a bargain, not just because of the time and energy involved, but being able to come out with this tangible product that we were able to implement and move forward right from the beginning. uh, it's invaluable to us. If we were a multi-million dollar organization, that might be a different story. But the fact that we're kind of small, we're scrappy, which I think a lot of friends groups and park foundations are small and scrappy. So that's a benefit of membership that I really think you should promote more, because it was very helpful for us.
Yeah, and I think especially organizations, regardless of size, that have not taken a look at their landscape, especially since COVID, really could benefit. And as a member of NAPF, just to let you know, my time is already paid for by your membership. So we can have an hour-long discussion about your organization and see if I can supply any insights just by talking to each other. And then if there is the need for planning, we can, enter into that sort of agreement later on down the road. I guess the next area that we're looking at, and I want to gain some insights because I'm putting together the presentation for your board on the role of board members in giving. I want to kind of gather some insights from you right now. Well, I can use you on the podcast to get that information on what you're kind of looking to see there as far as the information that you think is most valuable for your board members when it comes to being a philanthropic success for their organization that they represent.
Well, that's a great question. And uh, most volunteer boards, and we have an all volunteer board, come into board service wanting to be helpful. Uh, that said, creating a culture of philanthropy is extremely difficult when people are not part of used to asking, used to fundraising. And my board was no different. Whenever I would bring up fundraising, it's like, oh, well, what kind of event can we do? I call it the bake sale, phenomenon. Everybody
Right.
wants to have an exchange. It's like they don't want to, they don't feel comfortable asking. So, but they're fine if they have something that they can tangible that they can trade, um, and that's okay. And events work for certain purposes. I see it more as fundraisers than fundraisers, because I'm my background is fund development, building those relationships. Uh, I don't want it to be transactional. So my board's come a long way. I've got some new board members who have some experience working with nonprofits, with fundraising. They kind of get it, but I need to bring everybody else along. And part of that, what I'm hoping to see from the training is people understanding that when you ask someone directly, who do you know that might be interested in this project? Everybody says, "Oh, I don't know anybody who has any money. I don't know." People either want you to write a grant proposal for something, or they just don't want. It's not comfortable for them to say, "Well, I know Joe, and Joe's a big community guy, and I think they'd be interested in learning more about this." People are very skittish about that. So I'm looking to kind of demystify that process,
Yeah.
um, get board members comfortable with sharing with their networks broadly what their board service entails. They get excited about the projects that we have moving forward, um, and being able to talk about it on a level with a base of knowledge. So that's up to me to provide them with that knowledge, provide them with that information, but have them feel comfortable going out and having those conversations. And I don't want to name names, but one board member in particular who is very active, very engaged, and so they say, I don't know anybody that can give a $1 million gift, and I had to correct them. And I said, actually, you do. And I
Yeah.
named the person and the resources and who they had given to in the past, and it it kind of, you could see the light go on. They didn't say, oh yeah, I'm ready to make an introduction to that person, but you could see the wheels starting to turn. Uh, People don't, it's still not common for people to talk about their wealth, their philanthropy, their giving. People, it's a private thing.
Sure.
But when you're volunteering and you are engaged in an organization, people love hearing that. People love knowing that you're working for a local Parks Foundation in their area, and there are so many cool things happening. There's a new swim center planned, and we're going to be renovating the Discovery Museum at Sulphur Creek, which is also an animal hospital. I mean, there are so many cool things that people would like to learn more about. And that's what I want to get board members comfortable with talking about it, comfortable with introducing me to their network, so then I can
Yeah.
continue that relationship and bring them in as a partner in the work that we're doing.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to taking your board through some exercises to help, like I said, take away that mystery and that uncomfortableness that comes with asking for money. Obviously, it's like any type of muscles on your body. The more that you work that out, the easier that it becomes to lift that weight.
Okay, and actually, you know this from your fundraising experience. For me, the university level is where I was first introduced to this. The advancement team would get together and literally spend an hour each week when we would meet practicing. It's
Yeah,
like practicing cold calls, practicing bringing I'm meeting with this donor. I want to pitch this to him. I'll play the donor. Give me the background and that interaction, and it works. I mean,
yeah.
it really makes you feel more comfortable, and you don't get caught up in the being afraid to bring something up. It's just like you said, it's a muscle memory that the more you use it, the easier it is to use.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Steve, I can't believe we have already blown through our time together. Uh, it goes by so quickly. We're definitely going to have to get you back on the podcast again in the near future because there's about 4 or 5 other topics that I wanted to touch on, but we just ran out of time. I did want to let everyone know again that that you can subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. You can actually get this on any of the podcast channels that you use, Spotify, Amazon, any of those other, so that you can have that subscribe to and coming to your podcast anytime that you need it. I also just wanted to close with just kind of a reminder about the upcoming NRPA conference, which is at the beginning of October. On October 10th in the morning, NAPF is going to be holding an awards banquet to honor some folks in the Park Foundation community, honor some foundations that have done some exemplary work. If you're interested in learning more about how you can get involved in this or get a ticket to the breakfast, please feel free to reach out to me. My info will be down in the description. Steve, thank you again for your friendship and for your trust in me and for coming on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. And yes, I would love to come back because you're right. There's a few other things I wanted to add to this, and I can't believe it went that fast. And thank you for inviting me today, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you to all the listeners. And we'll see you on the next, The Foundation, a Parks People podcast.
Thanks for tuning into The Foundation, a Parks People podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@the-NAPF to not miss an episode. To help this podcast grow, please like, comment, and share with your friends. Have a great day.